It now becomes the duty of the court to impose sentence in this case, and that is to see that this defendant never again has the opportunity to walk the streets of our community as a free man.
As to count one, how do you find it?
Guilty.
Hello, my name is Paco Rivera, and this is the Maximum Sentence channel, where we discuss recent crimes and convictions and the maximum penalty handed down. Well, in the case I'm going to discuss today, the accused was found guilty and his sentence is still pending, but I'll update the description here and on my Facebook when that is known. So you can also follow me on Facebook for that update and more. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. On the evening of January 4th in 2022, 17-year-old Zion Foster went to work at the Detroit Wing Company restaurant in Eastpointe, Michigan, just a little bit outside Detroit, just a few miles from her home where she lived with her mom, Sierra Milton. When her work shift ended about 10 o'clock that night, Zion was picked up by Sierra's boyfriend, her mother's boyfriend. Shortly after arriving back at the house, Zion asked for permission to go hang out for a while with a cousin from her father's side of the family named Jaylin Brazier. Sierra Milton said okay, and Zion was picked up at the house by Brazier about 10:45 p.m. that night. Zion had taken her purse and cell phone with her. Jaylin Brazier lived with his girlfriend, who was pregnant, Katrina Smith. And Katrina was scheduled to work an all-night shift that night of January 4th. Katrina didn't drive, so Jaylin Brazier dropped her off at work shortly after 10 o'clock that night, and it was only after dropping her off that he texted Zion, his cousin Zion, to let her know that he will have the house all to himself and they can smoke some pot there with no problems. Evidence in this case showed that while Zion was at Jaylin Brazier's home, she was also texting her boyfriend, Vertez Gonzalez, several times during the evening. In one text, she told Vertez that she and her cousin Jaylin were going to smoke some weed for a while and then she'll be going back home. And at about 1 o'clock in the morning, Zion texted Vertez Gonzalez a final time saying that she was going home. But what should have taken no more than about 20 minutes turned into many hours. And by the following day, when Zion hadn't returned to her home, Sierra Milton knew something was wrong and filed a missing persons report with police. Multiple law enforcement agencies became involved in the search for Zion Foster. That included the Eastpointe Police Department, the Detroit Police Department, and the FBI. They quickly learned that Jaylin Brazier was the cousin that Zion was going to be hanging out with on the night that she disappeared. But when Brazier was questioned, he told investigators that it had been months since the last time that he saw Zion. He is clearly heard on body cam saying that Zion was never at his house that night.
Just basically showing this girl was never in my house. So
we believe you, man.
And she's known to be a runaway.
This statement made by Jaylin Brazier turned out to be stupid because everyone knew that he was the cousin that Zion was going to meet that night. After following several leads and obtaining definitive proof that Zion was in fact at Jaylin Brazier's home that night and that he was the last known person to see Zion, by adamantly denying that she was with him that night, he immediately became a person of interest in the disappearance of Zion Foster. A couple weeks later, by January 19th, Jaylin Brazier realized that investigators were onto him, and he voluntarily turned himself in at the police station so that they could question him further. Because by now, Brazier had developed in his mind a story that he was going to tell. And as it turns out, he would later change that story at least 5 or 6 more times. Brazier at first stated that, yes, Zion was in his house that night, that he and Zion smoked marijuana, and that Zion suddenly stopped breathing, that she overdosed on the marijuana. Have you ever heard of anyone overdosing on marijuana? Brazier said that he panicked and didn't know what to do. So he put her in the trunk of his car and drove to a large parking lot in a desolate area that had garbage dumpsters. He said that he then threw her body into one of the trash dumpsters. Another day, he changed that story and said that Zion had intentionally overdosed on LSD because she was suicidal. He said Zion died and he panicked and he threw her body into a garbage dumpster. I believe the final story he gave was that Zion had COVID-19, and that's what killed her that night. The only part of his story that never changed was that he placed Zion Foster's body into a garbage dumpster.
I did turn myself in. Yes, I lied, but I was not in the right state of mind. There was no way for me to prepare for a situation like that. I was scared.
What do you mean?
I was terrified. Literally from that point on, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't in the right state of mind for anything. I don't know exactly how she passed, what caused her to pass. I just know 1 minute she was cool, she was fine, she laid back for a minute. Next thing I know, she was dead. I don't know what caused it. I did not cause it or anything like that. I reacted stupidly off of fear and panic like I've never felt before in my life. Literally. The moment.
Are you telling me that you're stoned, she's stoned, you think she dies, and then you dispose of the body? Just like that?
I sat for a minute and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I just did not know what to do. It's like, know what to do. I literally did not know what to do. I sat for at least 10 minutes sitting there. Like, what do I do? Who do I call? My kids are upstairs. We just got into this place after struggling for like 2 years to get it, and everything is falling down.
I won't have any conversation in this court.
And I wish I could take it back. I would have called the ambulance, called her mom, because her mom is so sweet. Her mom is so sweet. And I just knew. I wish I could take it back. Nobody been in the situation. At the very least, they'd be able to be like, okay, this happened, confirm this. And everybody has some sort of peace right now, you know? But I just didn't know what to do.
For months, authorities conducted extensive searches of landfills where trash from all around the region is disposed, but they never found any trace or any remains of Zion. Her body, to this day, has never been found. Brazier was arrested and charged with providing false statements during a criminal investigation when he had insisted that Zion was never at his house. He was charged with lying to police, which is basically an obstruction of justice charge. By March 30, Jaylin Brazier accepted a plea deal for the charges of lying, and he stuck to his story that he didn't kill Zion, that he saw her dead and thought the best thing to do was dispose of her in a trash can. The problem is that his story is ridiculous. Jaylin Brazier served a 10-month sentence for lying to police, and he was released. But just as Brazier may have thought that he was in the clear, evidence came to light. Two officials still investigating the case that Jaylin Brazier had surely tried to indecently assault Zion on the night she was in his house. I have to use terms like that here on YouTube, indecently assault, because they don't want me using the S word for some reason. Like everybody's channel here should have videos made for the Disney Channel. Anyway, investigators believe that Jaylin Brazier may have tried to have S with Zion against her will. A forensic examination of Jaylin Brazier's cell phone showed, first, that in the days following the disappearance of Zion Foster, while he was still being questioned by police and detectives, that Brazier had totally deleted everything on his phone by resetting it to its original factory settings. Not only do many criminals not realize that that information is still stored in the cell phone system, much of that information can be provided by the cell phone service without the need of the physical phone. The examination of Brazier's phone showed that for months he had been trying to groom Zion for an indecent encounter. He had also texted Zion pornographic pictures. He had made statements in text messages of how bad he wants to have S with her. Now, one might ask, why would Zion agree to go to Brazier's home knowing that he has those intentions, those desires? One can only assume that Zion wanted to smoke some weed that night, and even though Brazier had made statements that he wants to sleep with her, she would just continue to say no. And as a cousin, she didn't think that he was a threat to cause her any harm, especially not force himself on her indecently and kill her. Adding to the theory that Jaylin Brazier attempted to force himself onto Zion on the night that she disappeared, police had observed when questioning Brazier that he had a long, deep scratch on the upper part of his shoulder. Some officers referred to it as a gash. When Brazier was asked about the cut, he told them that he had picked up the house cat in the house and the cat scratched him. But when Brazier's pregnant girlfriend, Katrina Smith, was questioned about it, she informed investigators that she had also seen the cut on his shoulder, and furthermore, that the cut was not caused by their cat, that their cat would never scratch anyone. And even if it did, that cut was obviously from a fingernail, not a cat. Investigators had also put together evidence obtained from cell phone location data and surveillance camera footage from various points throughout the city that Jaylin Brazier had in fact moved Zion's body to a trash dumpster in a parking lot. And he even returned the next day. It's seen on surveillance video that he returned the next day to see if the dumpster had been picked up. Video surveillance had shown that that dumpster was picked up earlier that morning. Investigators then found that Brazier, after looking into the dumpster to see if the body was gone, he had Google searched things like what happens to trash picked up from garbage dumpsters? What would happen to a human body after being taken to a garbage dump or a landfill? Brazier had also searched if he can be charged with a crime if a body is never found. It is obvious that Brazier did not want that body found. Why? Because he knew that the body will reveal everything that happened, what truly happened on the night of January 4th of the year 2022. A little more than a year later, in June of the year 2023, Jaylin Brazier was charged with second-degree murder and taken back to jail to await trial. And almost a year later, this year, the case went to trial, and Jaylin Brazier was sticking to his story that Zion's death was an accident and that he made the stupid decision of disposing of her body because he had panicked and he didn't want to be blamed and he didn't know what to do. So you're with someone and that person suddenly stops breathing. Both of you have cell phones. What do? Yeah, you call 911. Even a child these days knows that. And I think most adults these days knows some first aid or some kind of CPR. You pump the heart, you breathe into the person's mouth. Jaylin Brazier admits that he didn't do any of that. The judge at trial had raised the same questions to him.
People are sitting around and somebody just passes. Did you think about calling 911 or something like that?
No, not at the time.
No. This guy who at the time was 23 years old, says that he panicked and didn't know what to do. So instead, he gets rid of the body. He dumps his 17-year-old cousin. He dumps this girl into a garbage dumpster like she was trash. And he now wants a jury to believe that he didn't R her and that he didn't kill her. Well, no jury is going to buy that malarkey.
The fact of the matter is that she was loved. She is loved. She was fought for. And this is the result. So I'm happy. I'm happy that in the end, this is justice.
This past March 6th, 2024, a jury in the state of Michigan found Jaylin Brazier guilty. He is set to be sentenced in June. And like I said, I will update the description here when that happens and on my Facebook. Please remember to subscribe for more of these true crime stories so that you're alerted when the next one appears. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. I am Paco Rivera. Take care and bye for now.